movie begins with the evening scene in Copenhagen, Denmark. Inside a car, two young individuals are having an argument. One of them, named Yasin, is pressured into robbing a bank at the intersection. Unable to resist the pressure from his seniors, Yasin reluctantly agrees to do it. The robbers then create a distraction by crashing their car into another vehicle, allowing Yasin to enter the bank and commit the robbery. Shortly after, Yasin emerges with the stolen money and escapes on a prepared motorcycle. However, his panicked actions attract the attention of patrolling police officers. Yasin then falls from his motorcycle during the chase and is pursued by the police. Meanwhile, in a luxurious apartment, a married couple named Zaid and Stein are seen hosting friends who have come to visit them. Suddenly, there's a knock on their apartment door, and it's Yasin who has come to meet his brother Zaid. At that moment, Zaid leaves to speak with Yasin, asking his wife to return to their guests. Yasin immediately seeks Zaid's help to borrow a large sum of money, but Zaid finds the request excessive and eventually drives Yasin away when he becomes disruptive, even swearing on behalf of Zaid's unborn child. Zaid and Stein are eagerly awaiting the birth of their first child. As they come from different cultural backgrounds, Stein is Danish and Zaid is of Iraqi descent. Unlike many other immigrants, Zaid is fortunate to work as a doctor. One day, after finishing an operation, a nurse friend informs him that his brother has been admitted to the emergency room. Shocked by the news, Zaid rushes to the emergency room where he finds his brother in a coma, having sustained severe injuries. After waiting anxiously with his family, a doctor from the emergency room arrived with the news. Sadly, Yasin couldn't be saved, and with a heavy heart, Zaid shared the news with his mother, who broke down in tears. Meanwhile, Zaid went to Yasin's ward, feeling guilty for not helping him sooner. However, the feeling of anger towards the perpetrators of the brutality is even greater. Shortly after, the nurse removed all the medical devices from Yasin's body. The following day, the funeral took place, with Zaid assisting in carrying Yasin's coffin to the grave. Their fellow Iraqi immigrant colleagues attended, accompanying them to the cemetery. Among them was Torben, a Danish man, and Zaid's longtime friend, who invited Zaid to visit him sometime, as they hadn't seen each other in a while. As Zaid was preparing to leave, he noticed a group of young gang members, who were friends of his brother's, blocking the road with their car. Zaid honked the horn and asked them to move their vehicle. Later, Zaid visited his parents' apartment downtown. While there, he explored Yasin's room and came across a photo of him in a karate uniform, because Zaid used to excel in that sport in the past. Returning home, Zaid encountered a gathering of immigrant gang youth in front of his apartment building. Suddenly, one of them, named Alex, approached him. Claiming to be Yasin's friend, Alex offered his condolences to Zaid. However, when Zaid curious about Yasin's issues, Alex only mentioned that Yasin knows something to someone named Branko. The following day, Zaid visited the police station to check on the progress of Yasin's case. However, the police hadn't made much progress yet. When Zaid asked for more details, they seemed hesitant to share. Eventually, they allowed Zaid to leave, promising to update him later. Zaid couldn't shake off his worries about his brother's case, making it hard for him to concentrate at work. That evening, he attended an art exhibition at a gallery with his wife. There, he noticed a familiar car from Yasin's funeral the day before. Suspicious, Zaid followed the car and discovered it was involved in drug dealing with the painter at the exhibition. Angry, Zaid confronted the painter, prompting his wife Stein to insist they leave. The next day, Zaid went back to his parents' home to search through Yasin's belongings. Among them, he found a cell phone locked with a password and a pistol. Later, his mother handed him the pistol she found in Yasin's room. Taking the pistol to the police station, Zaid asks about the investigation progress. The police then revealed that Yasin was indeed linked to a criminal group, but refused to share further details on the suspects. Frustrated, Zaid persisted, pushing the police for more information. Eventually, they reluctantly disclosed CCTV evidence from the bank robbery Yasin was involved in, but they didn't prioritize investigating the murders within the gang. Disappointed with the police's response, Zaid was asked to leave the station. Feeling unsettled, he decided to visit Branko, Yasin's boss, and the drug dealer that night. Shortly after, Zaid reached a location close to his parents' house and was guided inside by someone. Inside, he saw Branko with 3 others, and they told him to sit. Zaid quickly asked about Yasin, but Branko said he didn't know. Zaid then explained he wanted to know why his brother was killed. However, the gangsters responded with violence, hitting Zaid hard. Then, they threatened him with a gun, warning him never to return. Feeling fortunate not to be dead, Zaid hurried home. There, he examined his bruises. The retired karate athlete realized he was easily beaten by young troublemakers. The next day, Zaid's wife noticed his injuries. He finally admitted meeting Yasin's friends, and he recognized them from childhood when they played near their home. Worried, his wife begged him to stop investigating. While at the hospital, Zaid met with the person who examines Yasin's bodies after death and wanted to read Yasin's report before it was given to the police. Even though it was not allowed, Zaid couldn't be stopped. In the report, Zaid saw that Yasin was badly hurt in important areas, causing bleeding. Learning this, Zaid became even more upset at his brother's attackers. Meanwhile, at a kickboxing dojo, a trainer who had recently told Yasin to commit the robbery, named Saymond, was seen encouraging his students to train hard. Saymond also tested each of his students to see how much they had improved. Most of them were from Iraq and had moved to another country. Besides doing bad things as part of a group of criminals, Saymond also ran a sports training facility. In the changing room, Saymond met Branko, and they were apparently affiliated with each other. Saymond talked about 4 Arab girls currently in his possession. They were both involved in human trafficking. They were the leaders of the criminal organization mentioned by the police, in which Yasin had been involved. On another note, Zaid finally visited Torben's workshop and was warmly greeted by his old friend. Zaid expressed his wish to resume training, driven by his desire for vengeance against his brother's killer. Initially, Torben tried to discourage him, citing Zaid's current profession as a doctor and the changed nature of modern gangsters. However, seeing Zaid's determination, Torben eventually agreed to help. As Zaid began training, it became clear he was out of practice and lacking in strength. Determined to improve, he dedicated himself to rebuilding his stamina, spending his free time after work at Torben's workshop. One day, while out jogging, Zaid encountered Alexis again and invited him to visit Torben's workshop. There, Zaid trained diligently, showing improvement. After the session, Zaid invited Alex to join him for dinner at his home. Zaid then introduced Alex to Stein and warned him not to mention his training at Torben's workshop to his wife. Over dinner, Stein enthusiastically served food, and Alex shared that he was currently unemployed, spending his time playing online games while searching for work. When asked about his connection to Yasin, Alex mentioned they often played games together and occasionally trained in kickboxing. After dinner, Zaid and Alex sat outside, where Alex mentioned Saymond's involvement in Yasin's death. He explained that Saymond was Branko's boss and controlled Luthen, where Branko's headquarters were located. Alex also revealed that there would be a fight in the next 2 days, prompting Zaid to request to be taken there. Shortly after, they arrived at the fight venue, still located in Luthen, where Zaid had been assaulted by Branko and his group the day before. It turns out this event was not only prestigious, but also served as a gathering for Saymond's athletes to participate in underground fights for gambling purposes. Branko was also present among the spectators. Alex pretended to inquire about a job from Saymond, while secretly indicating the target to Zaid, who remained silent, surveying the area. As time went by, Zaid became increasingly occupied at Torben's workshop, causing him to forget his promise to his pregnant wife, Stein, who needed his support. This neglect angered Stein, prompting Zaid to realize his mistake and seek to make amends. That evening, Zaid took Stein out for a special dinner to make up for his previous negligence. The following day, they returned to Torben's workshop, where Alex handed Zaid Yasin's hacked cell phone. Upon inspection, they found photos of Yasin with Saymond, confirming their connection. Torben also equipped Zaid with a bulletproof vest and tested it by shooting directly at him. Torben wanted Zaid to be fully prepared to confront the gangsters. Additionally, Torben prepared a specially customized motorcycle for Zaid to use. That evening, Zaid sprung into action, concealing his face to avoid detection. Zaid headed straight to Branko's base, but found only a few of his thugs there. He subdued them, confiscated all the money and drugs he could find, and set them ablaze in front of the headquarters. Later, Zaid met Stein for dinner, but their evening was interrupted by the arrival of some immigrant youths, including Saymond. Zaid noticed Saymond among them, causing him to lose focus on his wife. Instead of paying attention to Stein, Zaid's gaze shifted to Saymond and his friends. They made eye contact, which seemed to stir Saymond's anger. When Stein excused herself to the restroom, Saymond approached Zaid and recognized him. He seemed offended by Zaid's presence in such an upscale restaurant, as if implying Zaid had abandoned his roots by associating with white people. Saymond compared himself to Zaid, suggesting that he stayed true to his origins by providing jobs and hope to fellow immigrants. In Saymond's view, Zaid's absence when his brother needed him was worse than anything he himself had done. This further confirmed that Saymond was indeed responsible for Yasin's death. When Stein returned from the restroom, Zaid immediately escorted her out of the place. After dropping off his wife, Zaid went out again to keep an eye on Saymond. Shortly after, Zaid witnessed Saymond leaving with a bodyguard. Zaid then followed them until the car stopped. When the bodyguard exited the car to enter a store, Zaid seized the chance to approach Saymond. Standing in front of him, Zaid attempted to shoot, but Saymond's car windows were bulletproof, thwarting the attack. After that, Zaid ended up being chased and shot at by the bodyguard. Fortunately, Zaid managed to escape and went straight to the hospital, while Saymond returned to the headquarters and gathered his Danish gangster partners. Saymond then announced that there was a traitor among them who had tried to kill him. His partners were offended by the accusation. They argued until suddenly an explosion occurred, startling everyone. Rushing outside, they saw that the explosion originated from all the parked cars in front of the headquarters. It was clear that the disturbance came from outside the group. On the other hand, Zaid, who caused the explosion, quickly left the area. Upon reaching the hospital, he encountered an emergency patient, a young Iraqi immigrant whom he had previously encountered and injured at Branko's place. Despite his reluctance, Zaid provided medical assistance to the young man. After the surgery, Zaid faced the young man's parents and explained the seriousness of their son's injury. Following this, Zaid received a call from his mother, urging him to return home. On his way, Zaid encountered several young gangsters who mocked him for being white. Feeling offended, Zaid confronted them and even took a pistol from one of them, aiming it at the leader. However, Alex intervened and tried to stop Zaid's aggressive actions. Alex warned Zaid not to go home as the gangsters had identified him. Despite Alex's advice, Zaid proceeded home, where he found Stein already aware that he hadn't been at the hospital. Stein, who had previously warned Zaid about getting involved in Yasin's case, reiterated her concerns. At the same time, Zaid received a call from Alex, informing him of a serious situation. Ignoring his wife's warnings, Zaid rushed to Alex's house, where he found Alex severely injured. After assessing Alex's condition, Zaid called for an ambulance to take him to the hospital. Before losing consciousness, Alex revealed that Saymond was the assailant. Zaid hurried home and witnessed his apartment was on fire. Upon arrival, Zaid witnessed his wife being taken to the hospital, with authorities already present. The police noticed Zaid, but he quickly fled the scene, heading to his cabin house to gather his thoughts. However, Saymond and his men continued their violent acts. They attacked Torben at his workshop, tied him up, doused him with gasoline, and set him on fire. The gruesome scene was recorded and sent to Zaid. Awoken by his vibrating phone, Zaid saw the horrific video targeting his loved ones. Fueled by rage, he sought revenge. Zaid then visited the hospital to ask about the young man he had operated on earlier, hoping to find Saymond's whereabouts. However, the young man revealed that only Branko knew Saymond's address. Zaid then located Branko in Luthen and forced him into his car while aiming his gun. Surprised by the sudden turn of events, Branko complied with Zaid's demand. However, Branko denied knowing Saymond, forcing Zaid to threaten him with a gun. After that, they proceeded to the address, but Branko took advantage of a moment of distraction to crash the car and throw Zaid off the seat. In his vulnerable state, Zaid was assaulted and cornered by his enemies, facing the threat of death. Fortunately, Zaid managed to grab his pistol and shot Branko. He then took Branko's phone, pretending to forget Sayman's address, and sent a message to lure Sayman out. Upon receiving a reply, Zaid headed straight to Sayman's house. Inside, Zaid took the elevator and encountered Sayman's bodyguard alone. Silently approaching from behind, Zaid choked the bodyguard until he passed out. Entering the apartment, Zaid was ambushed by Sayman from behind. Despite Sayman's expertise in kickboxing, Zaid managed to keep a defense himself. Zaid allowed Sayman to attack at close range, seizing the opportunity to turn the tables. Overpowering Sayman, Zaid relentlessly struck him until he weakened, then kicked him out of the window and Sayman fell to his death instantly. Shortly after, Zaid was attacked from behind by a young man, but he managed to defend himself and weaken the attacker with a gunshot. As Zaid prepared to finish him off, the young man apologized, prompting Zaid to show mercy and offer help instead. Zaid then took the young man to the hospital, ensuring he received medical attention. Upon arriving at the hospital, Zaid alerted the nurses and handed over the injured young man to their care. Just as he was about to leave, a friend informed him of Stein's recent delivery. Zaid then rushed to his wife's ward and saw her cradling their newborn baby boy through the window. However, upon noticing his blood-stained arms, Zaid decided not to enter the room, ultimately choosing to leave. As Zaid exited the hospital, he found the police waiting to arrest him. Without resistance, Zaid surrendered. Despite his integration into the white community, Zaid couldn't deny his Iraqi heritage, where the tradition demands retribution. Despite losing all his previous privileges, Zaid accepted his fate and prepared to face the consequences. Moral lesson from the story: never borrow money from your brother, especially if he's about to become a karate master, because when he asks for it back, you might end up in a hospital bed with a bunch of gangsters chasing you.